This episode of the MSP podcast is brought to you by Big Tex Outdoors. Everything you could possibly need for your firearm. If he doesn't have it, you probably don't need it. And PHLster holsters. Can't do a sub 5-second fast drill? We'll get a PHLster holster. If you still can't, well, at least you know it's not the holster's fault. And primary and secondary, the definitive source for the armed professional and the responsible citizen. Quit your bitching about all the rules and get better. Hey guys, welcome to the Modern Samurai Project podcast, nicknamed the Self-Reliant podcast, nicknamed the Get Better podcast, because it's not just about guns, it's about medical, it's about working out, it's about your diet, and it's also about thinking about everything. Break everything down, build it back up so that you can get better and do things that resonate with you and your practical purposes, not just because some cool guy says so. Speaking of cool guys, I got John Correia from Active Self-Protection on the show today. Super stoked to have him. He's a good buddy of mine. We've trained together. We've argued about stuff. We've agreed about stuff, all in the pursuit to get better and understand more that we're doing. So that being said, sir, I did a mini intro. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and why the hell you're on my show?
I thought you said there was a cool guy. Wait, what? Who? Where? Anyhow.
There you go.
So, if people know me, they know me from the YouTube channel, the big YouTube channel Active Self-Protection has. Now, we just crossed 1.5 million subscribers. People send me real-life surveillance videos every day of armed robberies, carjackings, muggings, stabbings, home invasions, defensive encounters of all kind, and I do after-action reports on them. So we watch what happened. This really happened to somebody, and then if they made it out okay, we talk about how they made it out okay, what are the principles that we see work again and again and again, and if they didn't, and sometimes the good people don't, then we talk about why that happened that way. And the whole purpose of the channel was because I started really being a training junkie, and I wanted to be more evidence-based in my training. I wanted to train the things that I needed in a real-life private citizen gunfight. And so that's what it is. And I'm also a firearms trainer. I'm a martial artist. I am a smoked meat lover. There you go.
Wow. All right. That's the way to end it up, right? Smoked meat lover. Anyway, so last year you just went on a training tear, right? How many hours of training did you have last year?
So 2018, I finished up the year with, I think, 330 hours in training. I think I'll finish up 2019 with about 310 as long as everything happens to finish up the year strong.
Have you tallied up all of the hours of formal training? Not so much combatives, martial arts, but just firearms training and firearms training, medical, yada, yada.
Yeah, so I'm just talking about firearms and medical stuff. I'm not talking about martial arts with that. So I just crossed 900 hours lifetime in firearms classes, both at a student level and an instructor level.
Hold on. I am not a math Asian. Everybody knows that. I've taken my classes. How many hours?
900.
900. Good Lord. Divide by 7. Hold on. That's not right. 900 divided by 24. That's 37.5 days, complete days worth of training.
Yep. Complete
days. If we divide that by 8, I don't want to do that. I'm not a math Asian. Everybody knows that, right? But so that's a lot of training. So that's a lot of training. And here's the thing I respect about you, John. You know, you have a lot of people out there that are, YouTube famous, right? That they pontificate about certain things, man, but they don't back that up with training. And you do, and you shoot a lot, and you're never satisfied with where you're at. You always want to get better. My opinion, you're a little bit rougher on yourself than you need to be, but that's okay. That's okay. So what we're going to talk about today, guys, are things that we have in our typical, pistol training class, and we don't know why, because it's not necessarily evidence-based, right? And again, instructors, don't get angry if you teach something that we're, bringing up today. It's not that we're not saying it's right, wrong, efficient, or inefficient. We're just wondering why, right? So let's start off easy, okay?
Okay.
In pistol classes, shooting from a kneeling position.
Oh yeah, see it all the time.
See it all the time, right? How many in all of the videos you have seen has anybody ever taken a knee?
Very rare, super rare. In fact, I was thinking an officer-involved incident that I had on the channel just the other day is one of the first that I've ever seen somebody actually take a knee as they took the shot. So, I mean, I can count it on one hand. We have about 2,000 videos narrated on the channel total. For that, we've analyzed about 20,000 gunfights, and it's beyond rare. 99.9% of the time, if somebody's on the ground in any capacity, it's because they got knocked on the ground or fell on their butt, and never has to do with voluntarily going that way. Always, I've seen people like bend over at the waist, trying to get away from something, like kind of bending out and like trying doing those kinds of things. But taking a knee is like it's a skill that I think is I'd say it's from a military doctrine. It's from there's a lot of stuff that we imported now. Okay, so can I go on a little bit of a history rant for just a minute?
Sure.
So I live in the great state of Arizona. Arizona also, of course, where gun sight is, gun mecca, right? Where we all pray 3 times a day to John Cooper, praise be unto him, or Jeff Cooper, rather, praise be unto him. And, so, of course, Cooper, an old military guy, forms the American Pistol Institute there in Paulding, and which becomes gun sight. And, his discussion among the great ones has so much military background. And even if we go back further than that, why did the NRA start? The NRA started because of Union soldiers after the Civil War, and their marksmanship skills declined so rapidly. They said, wait a minute, we got to get these skills back up. So much of that's based on the military. Well, military doctrine, as it comes in, I was in the military for 8 years, and I know how stupid the military can be, and how ossified and how little progress we can make on things. Not at the special units level, like the special boat guys, the SEAL dudes, the Delta Force operators, those guys, they can do some things. But big Army, big Navy, I was in the Navy, takes forever. So when we import all that military stuff into the civilian world, we take it out of their context. Even if it works in their context, it may not work in my context. And in that kneeling position may let the soldier behind me bring his rifle into the fight. But guess what? I ain't got anybody behind me with a rifle. So I just don't see it happen in civilian gunfights. I just don't.
Right. So that one officer that did take a knee, was there an advantage for him taking a knee, or did he almost do it because it was wired in him somehow? Was there a tactical advantage by taking a knee?
I wasn't able to see his badge cam. He wasn't wearing a badge cam because he's a special officer. He wasn't a patrol guy. And we see it from surveillance camera. I don't know if perhaps he was looking at his backstop angle that he wanted to be up or something like that. The dude was running through the backyard of a daycare, and so I don't know. It certainly didn't make his shot any better. There was no obstacles in his way. There was nothing there that I would have said a knee makes a lot of sense. I didn't call it out in the discussion because I don't know. I mean, I haven't had a chance to talk to him and say, hey, why'd you take a knee? And I probably never will. So I try not to go, oh, he's probably seeing X, Y, or Z. I didn't see any reason for him to take a knee, though. If you talk to him, he might have had a reason.
Okay, fair enough. But in civilian engagements, you've never seen one?
Nope. You're running hard and fast. You don't have enough time to do that stuff.
Have you ever seen one where if they would have taken a knee, it would have provided an advantage?
Let me think about that for a minute. I want to be very careful in my discussion. I can't think of a single one where taking a knee and using that very, very precious time in order to get a knee would have done any good. If you're going to move, I think that what I see is moving as fast as you can and anchoring yourself in place like taking a knee. It's just I have never seen one where it would have provided an advantage. But I talk to people that I don't know, are you a basketball fan at all, Scott?
Of course, huge basketball fan.
All right, so huge basketball fan. So again, I'm an Arizona boy right now. Steve Nash. When Steve Nash was leading my boys, the Suns, they called him the 7 seconds or less Suns. And if you remember, the thing that the 7 seconds or less Suns were known for, you give them the ball on the rebound, they would have that ball for 7 seconds or less. It was coming down the court, and they were setting up maybe one pass, and then the ball was getting shot. And they just pressure you into making mistakes, right? And I say that a gunfight is like that, but it's 5 seconds or less. It's pressure, and you better act right now because the pressure is coming. You've only got 5 seconds to win the fight.
Interesting. For example, like I'll give a shout out to Aaron Cowan, right? Aaron Cowan in his class teaches taking a knee, but the reason why he takes a knee is to evaluate your backstop, right? So if the bad guy, whatever, needs to be shot, and there's a whole bunch of people on your backstop, by taking a knee, you can change the angle, and then the shot will, if it goes through the bad guy, it will go in an upward trajectory. I get that.
Yeah, I think that makes logical sense.
But you've never seen it.
Nope.
Have you ever seen a shooting situation in a crowd of people with good guy, bad guy, and the crowd did not immediately disperse?
I have seen a few instances where people are stupid and will stand around while there's gunfire going on.
Okay.
People's normal reaction, of course, is to get low. But yeah. I've seen people stand around with bullets flying past. I've also seen a crazy amount. Now there's huge stakes here, right? If you shoot a bystander, whether or not you're prosecuted for that, whether or not you're civilly sued for that, you got to live with that, right?
Right.
I have to live with doing dead something that didn't need it. But man, I see people with terrible marksmanship where the gun is a freaking noisemaker. I'll tell you, just freaking shots winging out all over the place, and nobody gets hurt. I think that the stakes here are really high, so we never want to miss. We don't want to put one in a bad person, whatever. But I've never seen a shooting. Well, I guess I have one that I'm doing this next week where two cops get into an ego battle, draw guns, and go to guns on each other. This is smart. Off duty's drunk, stupid. And in that, a woman who's a bystander gets shot in the thigh. But I'd hardly call that a responsible gun use, so I'm not sure that I've included.
Right. And again, I want to remind the audience is that we're not saying that these things are not applicable in any situation. We're just kind of going down, the exploratory rabbit hole to see why that is, Well, and do we need to be teaching that if we've never seen it in anecdotal evidence?
It's one of the things that I talk about that when I teach my fundamental pistol class, not fundamental like basic pistol, but like the class I teach more than any other, we call evidence-based pistol skills. Mm-hmm. And in that evidence-based pistol skills class, I say, look, we're familiar because we're training junkies with the Pareto principle, with the 20-80 rule, right? That 20% of my inputs give me 80% of my outcomes. And other skills, I tell people all the time, are not necessarily unnecessary in your gunfight, but I want to get that 20% skills ridiculously good because that's where 80% of my outcomes come from.
Right.
And then the other stuff could maybe come into play. Now that 20% skill I know is going to come into play. Getting the gun out fast, getting an accurate first shot, getting accurate follow-up shots, moving responsibly with the gun in my hand, safely holstering the gun. Those things are going to come into play all the time. The other ones, not so much. So they might happen, but they happen rare.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so I brought up one. You bring up one. What do you want to talk about that people do in firearms training classes that you have never seen in any of the videos or that you've watched? Yeah,
so when we hear about, for instance, never use your slide stop lever to drop the slide on a reload, right? Mm. So you get a reload in the gun, you got to power stroke that gun. I heard that from a major training organization because now here was the reasoning. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what the reasoning that was told to me is that, okay, John, so you may know the slide stop on your gun, and that's great. But what if you had to pick up my gun and use it, and now you don't know where that slide stop is because you're not right-handed like I am, so you need to use that over-the-top power stroke reload drop all the time. Now, my answer to that is, let's think about how far we've gotten in our gunfight. That I have run my gun empty or it's broken catastrophically. Okay. You have a gun available, but you're not using it. You are incapacitated somehow. And so I take your gun away from you and not only run it dry, but grabbed a reload from you. And now I'm reloading your gun that I'm unfamiliar with And I'm not smart enough to go, I'm so far down the trail here that I need to do the highly reliable grab the top of the slide. I'm going to fumble with this thing because of some muscle memory thing. This is how far down the rabbit hole I am to then back up to this one thing that I'm going to do on the range every day.
Yeah. Yeah, you're getting hit with so many lightning strikes because, like, Thor is just in Asgard, just raining lightning strikes down on you, right?
Right. So I've been hit by lightning bolts 9 times here.
Right.
Yes, I'm going home to Jesus. I'm done. Right? Like, I'm lost. So, like, I just go, that to me is kind of inane. Like, train whatever works correctly. All these methods work. You want to train this one all the time, go for it. To not put too fine a point on it, my police officer friends, even if that's the case, and they're doing that with everybody else in their department, most departments are standardized on their equipment list. Yeah. So if I'm carrying a Glock, you're carrying a Glock, and therefore it's the same manual of arms. Even if not, I know some departments that allow some other stuff. I just got to, in that moment, go, okay, now I'm cherry picking mags off my buddy's body, and, you know, because he's dead or whatever, and I'm still in the middle of a gunfight, and I'm not smart enough, though, to use an over the top. So that to me is a range haka thing.
Yeah. Right, range haka. I like that.
And that's similar to, I know Tom Gibbons has talked about this one, about retention reload. You know, I just think there's so much garbage about reload. Yeah, exactly. So I'm bounding from A to B to C. I'm never coming back here. And so, you know, we're gonna assault this structure, but guess what? We're going on from here to the next one. So I retain this magazine because I'm never coming back here again. And I got bunches of buddies with me. We may have 3 more assaults to do. I might need those rounds. In an officer-involved shooting, or certainly a private citizen shooting, you get into shooting, your day is over. You are done. Like, you know, the whole wrath of God is coming, and you are done. I know Tom has said that he's offered, I think, a $10,000 reward to anybody who's ever retained a magazine in a reload in a gunfight and then needed those rounds to win the gunfight.
Bro, or you could double it, and we'll talk about the next one about he could double it to 20,000 for any civilian that's actually needed a reload in a gunfight, and it mattered, right? We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Right.
So, yeah.
But, you know, if you have to reload the gun, it's empty or it's partial, whatever, and you have a reload, right? Just let it go, man. Let that stinking thing go and get more beans in the blaster since you got less time to worry about.
Well, I guess the thing is that people, when they use examples, right? And I'm sure, I mean, we're human, right?
Sure.
We've done something, and we do things deductively, not inductively, right?
Correct.
Inductive was like, well, here are the set of circumstances. What is the outcome? We take the outcome and build the circumstances to get there, right? I've been taught that a overhand power rack type of reload is the only acceptable way to do it. Let me build the story to support that technique. And in that point of building that story, so let me get this straight. I had a gun, it went down. You had 2 guns or 1 gun, and either it went down, you have an extra, or you went down. I have enough time in this fight to assess that my gun's not working, you're not using one of your guns, I'm going to acquire that gun. Meanwhile, during this whole time, I am not getting shot. But now I don't have enough time to figure out that you don't have a slide stop and rack the gun?
That seems a little minor there, yeah. And I think the retention reload thing is, it comes from an era when 1911 magazines were not highly reliable. And when you dropped them, they bent, and when you got a bent mag, it was crap, so they wouldn't drop them. And
oh yeah,
you know,
I was talking about the overhand, the power slide.
Yeah, yeah.
I went back to that. But the retention with reload, man, you're right. I think that's a complete military thing, right? And every person I've ever heard that from, that was part of their SOP, has been a Marine, right? Because Marines do everything with nothing. So they got to keep them magazines.
Right, because they are all on their own. No resupply for like 30 days, man. Like we're here. This MEU is like here. And that's cool. Like, but I'm not in that operating environment. And so mission drives not only the gear train, but the TTPs. And so
100%.
have to. So those are the kind of things. It's really funny to me how much of the haka revolves around reloading the pistol.
Right. So
That,
that's a perfect segue. Let's talk about that.
yeah,
Reloads in a gunfight, right?
Cops, I see it all the time, but I think
Yep.
that's mission oriented, right? Because cops chase bad guys down holes and they pursue fights. If they're in a gunfight with a guy and he runs off, guess what? They run after him. So that's going to involve more and more opportunities. And so, of course, number one cause of reloading is missing. If you hit your shots, you're not going to reload your gun as much. But they're going to pursue fights. So I see cops do reloads all the time. I see them do them poorly on camera all the time. I see reloads that are just disastrous hot messes all the time. So listen, I think you're going to do them on the range all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you may as well learn to do it efficiently. Like, there's no reason to be inefficient with it.
Sure.
So be efficient. In civilian context, again, 20,000 videos. I have seen precisely 3 times where a non-on-duty law enforcement officer reloaded a gun. All 3 of those times, the reload ended up being administrative. So by the time they got the gun back in the fight was over, and so they didn't need to reload the gun. It made them feel better. The gun was full then. Okay, fine, but it didn't affect the fight at all. I have never seen a reload affect the outcome of a CCW gunfight. I've seen maybe 7 or 8 times where a good guy ran their gun dry. So either the presence of a reload or a higher capacity firearm may have been a factor if they'd have had more gun. Would they have gotten it in the gun in time? I can't tell you that. So, I mean, you're talking like 10 instances out of 20,000. You're talking minuscule, maybe 0.2% chance of a reload making a difference in your gunfight. Pretty much the principle that I say is whatever is in the gun when your gunfight starts, that's what you have available to you in the fight. Everything else is in Narnia.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So whatever sights are on your gun, that's what you're going to get to shoot. However long it takes you to get the gun out, that's what you have. Whatever beams are in the blaster, that's what you got. Anything else is a fantasy. And everybody concocts an idea of how their gunfight's going to go. They have this idea in their head of here's how the gunfight's going to happen in my world. But I'm not telling people. I always tell folks, I'm not telling you not to carry a reload. And people go, well, a reload is for and most malfunctions in a modern semi-automatic pistol are magazine related. True, but I mean, if you buy a quality gun, how often you're a Glock guy. How often do you see Glock mags crap out on the range, percentage wise?
If I see a Glock mag fail, it's usually environmental related, right? Moon
Right.
dust in the gun,
Yep.
horrible ammo. And if it is because of the mag, you can just look at that mag and go, yeah, I can carbon date that thing and give you its age in centuries, right? Mags are disposable.
So
Mags
same
are
thing with, I carry HKs, and I have one mag that is so used up that it will reliably one failure to feed every single, and that gun is unique. That magazine's unique. But other than that, if you have a reasonably new magazine that is filled with quality ammunition and it's not completely hosed up full of crap, which your carry magazine shouldn't be, the chances of it failing in the middle of a gunfight are minuscule. And gotcha. Preventative maintenance is a thing.
So just a quick point for everybody, like we've said right before, we are just going down a discovery rabbit hole here, right? We're not saying don't practice these skills if they resonate with you, because statistics are cold comfort for the man that just got hit by lightning, right? Another great Colonel Cooper post. We're just saying is how much time are you going to be devoted to these niche skills that we don't have any anecdotal data that they're going to affect anything. Just something to think about, right? So here's the next one. Go ahead.
If your skills are super high, so you've been to 1,000 hours of gun school and you're like, dude, I'm so bored standing and shooting. I can drill, hundreds on the 25-yard V8, and I can pass Pressburg's no fail test all day, every day. It's the easiest thing in the world for me. Okay, then go have fun. This is just a new challenge. Do that all from kneeling. Do that all from fat guy prone, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, great, go for it.
Or forget all that and do my standards. Anyway,
you can earn a modern samurai black belt. You know, it's an easy day for you.
So let's talk about this is a multi level one that goes to competition versus the self-defense tactical world, right?
Okay.
That I find to be very interesting, right? So one of the main reasons why a lot of guys don't want to compete, right? Or the first thing they look at is, well, there's no effective use of cover in USPSA that will get you killed in the streets, right? And then, you know, the tactical guys who compete will often say, no, when the bullets start flying, you'll find cover. I think both are wrong. Right? Here's why I think both are wrong. In a close engagement based on not only the videos I've seen on your channel, but they're sprouting up all over the places, right? But only you really give good or thorough critique and analysis of it, right? But of all the videos I've seen in a close engagement, if it starts in the open, it ends in the open.
Pretty much. That's that 5 seconds or less, man.
Yeah, regardless if it's civilian or LE engagement.
Yep.
So if it's so hyperdynamic, critical, and tactical, how come we don't see any evidence of people running to cover when the bullets start flying?
Well, you know, it's interesting because, like, sometimes in armed robberies, every once in a while, we'll see people head to concealment, right? So, you know, I'll see a guy pulls a gun and, hey, give me your wallet, whatever. And if you're not the initial person, right, I'll see people duck behind concealment all the time. Now, of course, there's this big kerfuffle about concealment versus cover, but what bad guys can't see, they don't shoot at. That's the bottom line. So it works just as well. And I've seen guys play whack-a-mole kind of behind concealment going, oh, where's, you know, it's Marco Polo for a minute. But that's pretty rare. Most of the time, you're right. If it starts in the open, it's going to end in the open. And the counter ambush is not really because there's something between us, but because I wait my turn until you're not looking at me. And now I go to work and I'm standing here going to work. Now I see people move, but almost never with any sort of purpose of, I've got to get to a good position of cover here. Because in the real world, cover doesn't exist very well. I mean, most buildings built today are concealment on a good day.
Right. Yeah, the people without the firearm are the ones moving to cover.
Right, 100%. The ones without a gun are hiding. And the ones with a gun, if they're counter ambushing, sometimes I'll see somebody, you know, that's, again, that bad guy's got their back turned because it's an armed robbery and they're focused on someone else. And I've seen them draw a gun and as part of an ambush, sneak around a piece, you know, a little bit of concealment to go from a better location or whatever. You see that very occasionally. But man, if it's like a gunfight that's on, if it starts in the open, it almost always ends in the open.
Right.
And it's first one on target wins.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that, right? The draw.
Yeah.
Right. So there have been plenty of videos that you've had where there's been and I can't say the word for some reason, a serendipitous draw. How do you pronounce that word? I can't
Surreptitious.
Yeah, whatever. Draw, right? The one that reminds me is they're standing in line. Guy's there. He walks up and tries to rob somebody in line. The off-duty officer kind of rolls behind one guy, draws his gun, plugs the dude. Awesome.
Yep.
But there are a whole lot of drawing on drawn guns in your on your channel, right?
People do it all the time. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, let's talk about the need for a fast draw, right? And is drawing on a drawn gun stupid? So
I started really focusing on this after I got certified as a force science analyst by the Force Science Institute. Because human performance factors matter, right? Like what happens in an actual thing really matters. So I started really paying attention to that. Had one recently on the channel out of South Africa that it was actually really cool to be able to say, okay, so when the stimulus happens, if you have a 1 second draw to first shot, this is what you get, the look you get. If you have a 1.5, this is the look you get. He had about a 1.65. So this is the look he got. And this is why it was tough for him. So I see, is a fast draw to first shot important? Utterly yes. I do see people that they decide, I've got to get my gun out even when it's probably not their turn, because if a guy's got a gun in your face, you might just realize, man, he's going to kill me right now. So even though I'm behind, I better get moving.
Mm-hmm.
Is it dumb to draw on a drawn gun? Is it? We call it drawing from the drop on the channel when he has the drop on you. I think that the only time you want to do that is if you are absolutely sure he's going to kill you otherwise. Because, you know, obviously his trigger finger is faster than your draw stroke. Okay, cool. We can well establish that. Now, that said, if he's not killing you already, if he just pulls a gun out and he's pointing it at you, that's usually an intimidation tool. And if you're really fast, if you're under a second draw to first shot, you can probably beat him. And the cool part is that when we've established it, what we see guys do all the time in waiting their turn is, if I have a fast draw to first shot, he doesn't have to turn his back to me. So when we see him on the real channel all the time, is that if you have a 2-second draw to first shot, that guy has to at least turn his shoulder to you. So he has to turn his face away from you, and you have to at least see the side of his shoulder. So in other words, I've got the gun out on you, and then I go, what's going on over here? And then come back. If you have a 2-second draw to first shot, you can get me there. If you have a 1.5, then he's up on you. If he turns his head and looks, then he can't get you again to come back. So, oh, what's going on? Oh, they're bang. 1.5. If you have a 1-second draw to first shot, then all he has to do is glance away, and you've got him. So is it stupid? It's really risky. I mean, of course, we want to induce movement and those kinds of things. I'd prefer you wait your turn if possible. And again, that gives you a little bit of a counter ambushing thing. But I've seen people do it. And, man, if you're fast enough, you can pull it off.
So for people out there saying like, look, man, I got a 2-second draw. That's good enough because drawing on a drawn gun is stupid. I'll never use it, blah, blah, blah. You would agree or you would disagree with that?
I would disagree with that. And it might be fast enough. So I always tell people, knowing what your timing is tells you when your go signal is, right? So drawing on a drawn gun. Yeah, if a guy's got his attention on you, if I'm paying attention to you and I go, you're going to hand me your wallet or I'm going to shoot you in the face. And now you, obviously, Scott, you're ridiculously fast, right? But a 2-second guy starts drawing a gun, and especially if he's drawing it with a lot of useless frenetic motion, because that telegraphs his intentions, right? I'm getting a gun out and all these things. Then I'm going to shoot you dead all the time. But so when you say, oh, I've got a 2-second draw to first shot, at least you know now when you can go. So if you go, I'm 2 seconds, that's fast enough. And because I'm going to wait my turn. Well, when's your turn going to come?
Right.
You got to wait a lot longer. If I work very hard at your standard of 1.0 draw to first shot, right? And gosh darn, I pulled a 101 in class a few weeks ago. Darn it!
Daggers.
Yeah. But that 1-second draw to first shot, then if I only need a 2-second draw to first shot, well, I have it. It's available to me. If I want a surreptitious draw and want to wait till he's off in the wild blue yonder and draw the gun carefully, okay. But if I need the 1-second draw to first shot, I better have it or I'm dead.
Yeah, and I don't need. I can have a smaller window to be effective,
right.
Which provides options.
Which gives me a greater margin for success.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And I think, I know you're the expert here, but for me, a strong side draw, under 1.5, a strong side draw is not very difficult to get to. Under 1.0, strong side, that's work. But 1.5, pretty easy. Appendix carry, I really feel like a 1-2 draw to first shot is not very difficult to get to once you understand anatomical efficiency.
Yep.
And then, under 1.0 from appendix, this is something, and I'll give you I've given you props on this one in my space, but I'll give it to you in yours too, Scott. You remember, so I broke my left hand a few months ago, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, Jiu-Jitsu, the gentle art, sure it is. And and I'm left-handed, and so I've been working my sub-1 draw to first shot, and you and I were talking, I was out for a walk after I broke my left hand, and I said, so yeah, I changed over to right-handed, I'm using a right-handed appendix holster, and I'm not as fast right now from right-handed, so I'm around one. And you were like, dude, cut that crap right now. Like, what is your problem? And I was like, I'm just not as practiced. And you're like, that's bull crap. You know everything you need to know to have a 1-second draw to first shot with your right hand. You know exactly how to be anatomically efficient and how to be fast with your hand. So it's bull crap. Go home and do it today. And I was like, I can't even argue. I don't even I can't even say no to that. Like, you're right. So I went home, and guess what? I'm drilling on my dry fire 9.5s. Just that mental shift, right? It's all about a mental game at that point.
Yeah,
So,
and that's what I tell people. Like, the whole there's a lady on Instagram. I think she's sponsored by Walther. Great shooter. I can't remember her name. I apologize. Otherwise, I'd give you a shout out. But she had broken her right arm, and she was doing one-handed draws with her left arm with the technique of here, pin, roll, and out, and it was fast. It was fast. But then I went and checked it out. It's no way it's faster than just turning the holster to your left and drawing with your left hand without the whole turn thing, right? As goofy or unintelligent as my offhand will be, it'll be much faster than trying to whirl and twirl and do all that other stuff with it, right?
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Right, and that gets hold of my theory of speed comes from efficiency. Efficiency comes from technique. If you understand the technique, there's no reason why you can't do it with either hand.
You proved that to me experientially.
Right. So in the other video that I always bring up, your video that I bring up in my classes was that guy who, that guy turned around with that cross-draw revolver. The officer slapped it out and drew his gun in 106.
Yep. Just blazed him down.
Sooner not faster. Sooner not faster. And I would say the 1.2 draw is it. I think I'm going to start getting away from the Tooler standard of 1.5, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's slow. As far as a guy covering 7 yards in 1.5, my buddy Matt Pronka, X-Ray Alpha, he put it up on his Instagram where dude was there and he ran, and not only did he cover it in less than 1.5 with full kit on, right, because they're bare-chested freedom fighters, but Matt was able to deliver 2 shots before he even got to him in 1.2, right? Now, Matt's a high-level SOCOM secret squirrel and a grand master, but I think the 1.2 draw gives a person, it eliminates the need to be super fast on the stimulus. You can wait for the beat to be done with a good draw, see your sight, make the decision to pull the trigger in 1.2. So I'm actually compliment for the class standard, instead of having the national standard be 1.5, I think it should be 1.2, because it's not hard at all.
It's not. I mean, it does take work. So, I tell people all the time, listen, if you're going to be good with a handgun, it takes work. It's its own martial art. Mm-hmm. It takes work. It takes range time. It takes dry fire. But I carry a gun because I might need to shoot someone, so I should be good at it.
Yeah. But a 1.2, that's why he's like, well, I'm sure I could do a 1 second draw. I just don't want to take the time to work on it. And I'm like, you don't have an hour?
Right. That's exactly it. Yeah. We get a lot of people down in the under 1.2 in less than 2 hours of work.
Right.
Just teaching them. And that's with all the teaching piece,
Right. Exactly. So we got that. What else? What else is out there that you see all the time in training classes, or people think that are absolutely necessary to practice, or in a training class that you just don't see on your videos?
Well, I won't name names necessarily, but I do see people talk about the startle response an awful lot in gunfights.
Yeah.
And I've literally never seen anybody do the and then draw a gun and shoot somebody. I've literally never seen it. It's that kind of like, oh, there's a threat here. Oh no, what's going on? And then go. I've seen plenty of people surprised, right. By what's coming. But if they go, oh, there it is, it's always just a little pick. I've never seen a hands come up like this and go whatever. So I do know, we talk about this all the time, all this, the hands up, surrender posture because it's your flight response or whatever. Literally never seen that. I've also never seen anybody draw a gun from hands down at sides.
Oh, let's Yosemite Sam. My favorite.
Yeah, I've never seen the Yosemite Sam in real life. I've seen plenty of hand out like this, you know what I mean? Like, hey man, whatever. And almost always, so it's interesting to me when I see people in real life, they're almost always putting their support hand out and then cheating to the gun with their dominant hand. And it's an interesting thing, because I kind of think, listen, I'd rather push that the other way and put my gun hand out and cheat with my clearance hand to be able to go, nope, that's coming up, and then I'm going to go get the gun and go to work with it if it's time to do that. But, that's maybe a little esoteric for some. I've just never seen people. I see plenty of people in a fight, stick their chin out like this with their hands down. It's just a great way to get knocked out.
Great way to not get knocked out.
Yeah, absolutely great way to get knocked. Rather, hey man, I don't want any problems, whatever. I'm going to have a good fence up here, whatever. The only time I've ever seen, I see cops they're writing stuff, so they've got stuff in their hands like this, all the time. But never the startle flinch. I see people. It drives me nuts. I see people shoot with dominant hand only all the time, but almost always just because they don't drop whatever's in their non-dominant hand. Mm-hmm. That's a big problem that I see. Something the defensive training world loves is this. I'm shooting here, and then I transition and I shoot support hand only.
Oh yeah.
And one time ever have I ever seen an on-duty cop have to transition to support side because her dominant arm got shot in a gunfight. I've only ever seen that once. I've never seen that in a CCW encounter. I've never seen anybody do anything support hand only with a pistol in a CCW encounter. It breaks too fast. Bottom line. I've also never seen anybody do anything one-handed with a pistol other than press the trigger. So I've never seen a reload. I've never seen a malfunction clearance. I've never seen somebody's one-handed gun go down. They go, huh? What up? And then they get smoked. When somebody talks about...
What about a draw? You've seen people draw one-handed.
I have seen people draw one.
From concealment.
Yeah, I see that all the time, in fact.
Okay. Okay.
Most often when I see it, it's not necessary. Most often when I see it, it's just a guy digging a gun out of his pocket. Or it's here on my strong side, so I'm just going to go get it one-handed rather than... Because I've got my groceries in this hand or something like that. I almost never see it because it's necessary. So it's kind of funny that it's led me, Scott, the way to teach, not to teach a one-handed draw, but to teach people to strongly prefer a two-handed draw. Because if I have stuff in my hands and I need this support hand to get my cover garment, I'll drop whatever's in it.
Because the natural response is if you've got something in your support hand, you're keeping it. Right. There's the two main videos of the off-duty cop getting his dry cleaning. Yep. Goes to the whole gunfight with his dry cleaning. And then the one of the on-duty officer writing a ticket or doing something, and he never drops his pad and pen.
Yep. I have one of a guy who has a pen in his dominant hand, an officer, He's writing stuff up, draws the gun, keeps the pen in his hand, and triggers the gun with his middle finger because he doesn't drop the pen out of his hand.
So that gets to the next thing. People, the classic technique of when you do like strong side only shooting to switch your feet. If you go to the classic athletic stance, right-handed, your left leg's forward, right? That if you go to strong hand only, you should then put that same leg forward. Yep. Ever seen anybody switch their feet?
In fact, I have. I have switch their feet, but I have a feeling every time I've seen somebody switch their feet, they're Brazilian cops. And my guess is that is a significant part of their firearms training.
Okay.
Now, again, they're shooting the gun with one hand because they want to, not because they have to.
Ah.
And so I see people do a ton of shooting one-handed with the gun without switching their feet. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's dogmatic all the time, and I can't really recognize any increase in marksmanship doing that. I think clearly putting the second hand on the gun is a much better way to get fast and accurate shooting than stepping forward.
Sure.
And I mean, we could debate which one's better, which one's more accurate. Is this a more significant? For my cop friends, of course, you want to keep body armor pointed towards bad guy, right? When you've got body armor on. For those of us who don't, I honestly, if you're going to have to go one-handed, I got a baby in this arm. This arm's in a sling, whatever. Get the gun out, get the sights on target, press the trigger, man.
Yeah.
You're going to die if you're worried about which foot should I have forward right now.
Okay. So before we started, you talked about your favorite range theatrics.
Yes, the range hawk.
Was what? Yeah.
Yeah. The range, okay, so I got done shooting. I follow him to the ground. I scan, I assess, right? So that classic follow up of, so I shoot him, bang, bang. Now I follow him to the ground. I scan for additional threats, and then I assess my environment is, to me, utter range haka. I have never seen anybody do that in any kind of serious fight, real fight. Now I get it. My friends who are trainers, and they go, yeah, what we're really teaching them to do is break contact.
Break the OODA, yeah.
Yeah. So break the tunnel vision, see your environment, breathe. Okay, so I'm totally down with breathe, with break your visual focus, those kinds of things. Now I do see quite a bit of in real life, somebody's bang, 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 and then they go, if they were with their loved ones, right? They instantly go look for their loved ones. So I shot
but
this
they're
guy,
not scanning
bang,
and assessing for bad guys. They're looking for their people.
Right, looking for their people. Are you okay? What else? Now, sometimes if they know there's multiple bad guys, bang, bang, bang. Now I'm going to go look for that other bad guy that I know is around somewhere.
Right.
Okay. But as far as scanning for the trailing threat that didn't get into the gunfight, it just doesn't happen. If they're going to show up in the gunfight, they're almost certainly there before you're done shooting. Mm-hmm. And so scanning for good guys, I've kind of started when we get to that place in our training stuff, rather than, okay, scan for bad guys, get done. And then I kind of like, Chuck Haggard's follow-up checklist, right? Did I hit him? Is he down? Do I need to shoot him again? And then, okay, wait a minute. Did he bring any buddies to this fight who needed to get shot? So I would, when the fight started, no. Now I look, okay, wait a minute. Am I hurt or is anybody else okay? Do they need help? Cool. Now, once I got that, now I call it in. Now I worry about getting help on the way. So I've never seen the range haka show up and do well. Mm-hmm. And so I don't teach it. I don't think it's a big deal. I think breaking focus is a big deal. I think that, taking appropriate follow-up actions is a big deal, but I've never seen anybody do a classic range scan and assess. Now, I talked to one cop who said that he did scan and assess after an officer-involved shooting. And my follow-up question to him was that because you felt like you needed to see what was going around, or did you look left shoulder, right shoulder, gun scanning around because that's what you were taught on the range? And he says, no, that's because that's what we were taught to do. So I just followed my training. And so I went, okay. And did you see any additional threats nearby? And he said, no. I said, can you describe for me anything that was in your environment there? Did you see anything there? And he's like, well, I mean, what do you mean? Like, was there a reason that you did that? Did it give you any information, or would you have been better served by doing something else? Well, I don't know. So I think it's something that it's, you're going to have to do something. Okay, fine. You want to do that. Great. But, call it in as well or something,
Yeah, one of the things that opened my eyes about the scan and assess, about the like you're saying, the range haka, right? The predetermined dance where we're not necessarily getting any information Jim Dexter, right?
Yep.
He was an air marshal for 3 years, and he basically chewed not chewed me out, but chewed out a situation where a guy just kept on scanning and assessing, and it's like it's not even right. Even if you were on a line like that and you did that, it's not even right, So just think about that, guys. Just think about that. So,
well, and if you think about it, if I'm here and I'm wondering, is there a threat that way in the real world? Now, we wouldn't do this on the range, right? But in reality, if I think there might be a threat that way, if I look, I still got to go through all this thing to get my gun there. Right. So, at the very least, I'm bringing this gun around to bear with my head, right? And making my gun follow my eyes. Now, of course, we wouldn't do that. Certainly not in an open enrollment class, because people pointing guns all over the range,
Right.
It would be radically unsafe. Maybe among some highly trained folk who work together all the time, and I can very confidently say they wouldn't point a gun at anybody. You can do that, but most ranges, heck no.
Right. Oh yeah. Right. So anything out there any skills you see, or manipulations, maneuvers, whatever I'm trying to say, that you do see in your videos that you think people should practice and they're never in a class? I kind of just hopped that on you because I thought of the question. I thought it was good. Right. There's plenty of things that we do that may or may not be necessary. But is there anything that you see in your fights that would be a great skill to practice, but nobody does?
Honestly, the thing that I harp on more than anything is a slow, deliberate holster. I think especially because we get out on the range and we want more reps, right? We want more reps. And so we get fast on the holster. And instead, where you're like, well, wait a minute, in a real gunfight, I'm not going to holster a gun anyways. Man, the cops could be minutes out. And you may need both those hands, for other stuff. And I don't want to just fling the gun on the ground or whatever.
Right.
I do see that pretty regular, right? I got to grab my kids up and get out of here, or whatever. So this gun's got to get put away. And so, man, a slow, deliberate, safe holster is something that we talk about sometimes, but we don't practice very often. Now, in a class like yours, where you're like, look, other than when you're on the beat, whatever, hey, you're released to your stuff. Go practice this through 20 or 30 times, right? But then to say, and every time I want you to deliberately take it, get through with it, and then take a deep breath, let it out, and then very carefully holster the gun. And make that part of your rep. Part of your rep is deliberately holster this gun, because when you're all stressed out and adrenaline dumpy and all that stuff, you'll do it without jamming that gun down into the holster.
Sure. Okay, that's good. I didn't know what you were going to come up with, man. I'm happy with that. I had a recent class somewhere, and I had to tell the guy 100 times, look your gun into the holster, because your shirt is lingering around your 3 o'clock outside the waistband holster, right?
Yep.
And he didn't listen to me, so I didn't make an example of him, but I reiterated the class about the importance of doing that. And if you don't do it, go look up North American Rescue.
Right. Yeah, make sure you got your tourniquet on you.
Yeah, and see what happens when a shirt gets in between your gun and your holster, and see what happens. See how much leg you lose.
Oh man, that guy looked like that tenderloin did not look good.
No, and that guy was an instructor.
Yeah.
Not look good. So yeah, 100%, man, 100%. Nobody ever won a gunfight, a match, or a drill by speed reholstering. It doesn't happen.
Sometimes in classes, right? An instructor that's doing up drills, up. You got to get back to the holster to be set for the next rep. And so people get fast, and it gets to be myelinated. I got to get back to the holster quickly and be set for the next drill. That's one of the reasons that I teach my classes like yours, that I demonstrate. I explain, I demonstrate, we imitate, we correct, we practice, and we go from there. And so we'll say, hey, slow your holster down, take your time. We'll give you enough time to get all the reps you want on this, right? So just take your time back to the holster and do it deliberately. And I agree with you. Look your gun into the holster. I get it. There are some instances where an on-duty cop will need to, holster without looking, but they're carrying in an offset holster outside the waistband, and it's a big open bucket. And that's not the holster that we wear concealed. So
super interesting. In one of my classes, a guy had asked me to slow down the tempo, right, on the one shots, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it or not, I do have a formula, right? When I'm talking to the person, I'm giving instruction, right? They do the shot. I give them some instruction, which if I'm not with you, what are you doing? Put your gun back in your holster, right? Or self-assess yourself, right? And he's like, well, I don't have enough time. You're not giving me enough time. And I'm like, okay, let me go ahead and watch it, right? I'll take it a little more carefully, right? So he comes up, does the drill, follows it down, scans and assess, look left, look right, mag out, mag in, press check, back in. And I'm like, hey, dude, why don't you eliminate the following to the ground, because the target didn't fall down. Nothing is coming around, so stop scanning and assessing. Keep the press check. Press checks are free.
Yeah.
I said at the beginning, this is not a tactical class. I don't know what you're looking for, right? Do the skill, because all you're thinking of is you do the drill, and the next thing you go through your range haka, and you forgot what you just did. Take half the time to ruminate what you just did. Did you do it correctly? Did you do it incorrectly? What's the evaluation? Go ahead and give yourself a press check and put your gun safely back in the holster. And you'll probably have, based on my pace, 10 to 15 seconds to get ready for the next one after you do all that stuff.
Right.
So let's think about that. All right, man. So we're at the end here. I promise I don't keep you for about an hour, right? This is what many people consider to be their favorite part. This is the get it off your chest segment. Okay.
Oh boy.
So what do people need to stop doing to get better? What do people need to start doing to get better? You can talk about anything. Doesn't have to necessarily be what the topic of what we were talking about today.
Sure.
You can talk about anything you want with this industry, training, equipment, kit, blah blah blah. Don't talk about your neighbors. Nobody cares about your neighbors.
Right. The thing that people need to stop doing if they want to get better is they need to stop making excuses why they suck. We all get ingrained in our ego. This is why I am where I am, and if you want to get better, you have to just accept, no, I have the capacity to improve, and that winning mindset is so important. And to say, well, I would be better, except no, stop that. And if you say I must get stronger, then you will. That's the bottom line. Then you'll do the things that are necessary. So stop making excuses. Everybody's got an excuse why they suck. Everybody's got an excuse why they don't get the martial arts class. Everybody's got an excuse why they don't get to the range. Everybody's got an excuse why they don't do their dry fire. But then you wonder why you suck. What do they need to do to get better? Dude, dry fire is life. Yes, you got to get to the range, but you make crazy gains and consolidate those gains and myelinate neural pathways by getting repetitions in dry fire. And you turned me on to Steve Anderson's refinement and repetition. And I mean, dude, just the first 4 drills in that, if you just do them, every day they take you 15 minutes. And that took me from 1-5 to 1 flat in 3.5 months of just doing it.
Yeah. 100%, man. 100%. So awesome. Perfect, dude. So John, tell the people where they can find you, man.
Well, big place is YouTube, right? So if you go up on YouTube, search Active Self-Protection, there's 2 channels there, Active Self-Protection and Active Self-Protection Extra, 13 videos a week between those 2. And then you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, those things. I suck at Twitter, so Twitter is a hive of scum and villainy. So I don't do that. And you can find us on our website, activeselfprotection.com.
Outstanding. So, John, thank you for coming out here. Guys, it's time for me to pay the bills. If I don't do this, the COO gets very mad. So if you want to train with me, check out modernsamuraiproject.com. It'll take you to a link over on my Shopify page where you can actually sign up. This year, I think I taught 50 plus classes. Next year, it's going to be 60. So if you say you can't find me because I'm not coming near you, it's because you're not looking hard enough, right? Would love to train with you. Come on out. Let's get better together. That being said, guys, if you like, the free milk I'm giving out, do me a favor. Like the video, subscribe. You can put something in the comments. Nobody cares about the comments, right? You go crazy reading the comments. Anyway, but whatever, right? But down there's a whole list of sponsors, right? They help make this possible. And what everybody likes, discount codes. So once again, guys, go check out John. John has inspired a lot of people to get better. Right. So if you're not familiar with his work, you're wrong. Right. And finally, guys, be good, stay safe, get training.